What's up YouTube, Webbers5 here, just coming at you with my tips and tricks video for best time to use your hand traps. Before I get into the video, I just want to quickly say to you guys, I am really sorry I haven't uploaded anything in a few weeks. As we're coming up into the Christmas period, I've been really busy at work, I've had lots of other stuff going on as well. I make liqueurs in my free time, so I've been making quite a few of those, having to sort those out, and like I said, work, so really sorry that I haven't been able to upload sooner, but here I am, I'm back. Hopefully should be doing a lot more stuff in the next week or so, so I'm just going to get right into it. Okay, so the main hand traps I'm going to cover today are about, let me see, about 7 main different hand traps I want to cover with you guys in this video. First sets are Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries, Effect Veiler, not that it's relevant, but still just gonna cover that anyway. DD Crow and Droll and Lock Bird. I just picked this up recently and I'm so glad that I did. And that's the minor set, and then the main 3, I think you guys can pretty much guess the main 3 hand traps I'd be talking about. Yep, Ash Blossom, Ghost Ogre, and Maxi. Okay. So for the moment, let's just start with the minor 4. Okay, so the best, I'm saying these are the minor 4 because essentially these 4, there's only ever like one best time to use them, and I'll just quickly go over them individually. So, as most people know, Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries you'd use for a mirror or anti-meta matchup to take out one of your opponent's best cards in their extra deck. By default, there's only like one really good time to use that, and that's before your opponent's going to make their big play. Generally, if you've opened it in your hand going second, and your opponent's got more monsters on board, because naturally, you can only use Winter Cherries if your opponent's got more monsters on the field than you do. So essentially, only one good time to use Ghost Reaper, so hence why I'm putting it in the side. Same basically goes with Effect Veiler, though in terms of Effect Veiler, he's iffy because your opponent can easily bait that out with multiple monster effects, so with Effect Veiler you just have to choose a moment that you feel is the best time to use it. DD Crow, again, only one easy time to use that. That's when your opponent's like activating the effect of something in their graveyard. The easiest thing to do by default is just DD Crow, take the card out of the graveyard before it can resolve. However, one of the issues I found with DD Crow is if you're going up against like a grave-specific matchup like Light Sworn or Zombies, because some cards banish from the grave as cost, so you can't DD Crow them then. And probably the main target you'd want to hit in a grave-specific deck is Fairy Tale Snow. But of course, trying to hit Snow with DD Crow is very difficult because since Snow is not once per turn, if they activate the effect of Snow, banish 7 cards as cost a special summon, you drop DD Crow, targeting the Snow. By default, Snow can just activate its effect again to special summon itself. However, but that's still like a good chance because they're just wasting resources there, banishing 7 cards to just out your DD Crow. But still, most decks aren't really siding DD Crow too much because we don't really have a grave-specific matchup at the moment. So. And also, last one in the minor set of acts, I wanted to talk about best times to Droll and Lock Bird. Droll and Lock Bird just states, if your opponent adds a card to their hand outside the draw phase, you can discard this card. Neither player can add cards from deck to their hand for the rest of the turn. So, best time to do that is just if your opponent's activated something that lets them activate an effect that lets them search, and you're pretty sure they're a matchup though they're going to do mass searching, e.g. Pendulum Magicians, Spiral, True Draco Invoked. The moment they do their first search, just Droll and Lock Bird, shut them down. But I want to talk a small bit more about Droll and Lock Bird because as well as doing that at like either the first search, there are other really good times to use Droll and Lock Bird, which is in situations where your opponent's activating an effect to search into another searcher. So examples like this are the Trickstar or ABC matchup if they play Terraforming to get their field spell, because by default their field spells also search again. So that's a good time to Droll and Lock Bird because they'll just activate Terraforming, get their field spell, you'll go chain Droll and Lock Bird. So now either they're in the position like like if ABC already have a piece in their hand, they could potentially still activate Union Hanger to summon the monster and then put a piece from the deck. However, there is also the chance they might be like, oh, do I want to get my piece attached, or do I really want to get that search later? So it does put them in a bit of a difficult position, as one thing. And the same, of course, with Trickstar, because Trickstar into light stage, like, if you draw Lockbird, then they're not going to be able to get any more mass searching off. But of course, with Trickstar, it's iffy, because if they're already set up in the OTK variant, then it doesn't really make too much of a difference, because you're probably gonna lose in your next turn. But still, that's... And speaking of Trickstar, of course, Trickstar have their own brilliant way of using Droll and Lockbird in combination with Reincarnation. So what they will do is set 2 copies of Reincarnation with the Droll and Lockbird in their hand. They activate the first Reincarnation on its own, just as a chain on its own, to banish your hand, and then you redraw. And then after you've drawn, they will activate another Reincarnation. In response to you drawing, they will activate another Reincarnation, and since it's still in the state that you've added a card to your hand, they will chain Droll and Lockbird to their second Reincarnation. Droll and Lockbird will resolve first, so no one can further add cards, and then the Reincarnation will resolve, banishing your hand, and you'll get nothing. So, Trickstars have found a really good way to abuse this card. So that's pretty much it for those 3. Now it's the other 3. Okay. Best times I find to using Ash Blossom. That's probably... Best times are probably either they're stuck, and usually when your opponent's setting up. So again, in positions like I explained, when they terraforming into a field spell that might get something. But the thing is, in a terraforming situation and you want to Ash Blossom it, sometimes it can be an idea just to wait and see what they're searching first. So, if you have no idea, of course, what your matchup is. However, if in like games 2 and 3 where you know what it is, then yeah, I'd do it straight away against the terraforming. And another situation I want to talk about Ash is in relation to the Predaplant Brilliant Fusion engine. Because from what we've seen, because in the next set, coming out soon, Extreme Force, there's a Link 4 monster which a lot of people know about. If you guys haven't seen it, it is Skulldeep the Chain Draco Serpent. It's a Link 4 monster that gains effects depending on the number of monsters used to summon it. And because of the Predaplant Brilliant engine, you can essentially summon that card in one move. One card makes an instant Link 4, which is absolutely horrible. And so naturally, once that card's out, Ash Blossom will be really good for stopping that, but you have to think through the best time to do it. In my personal opinion, Ash Blossom would be, in that situation, you probably would want to Ash Blossom, I would say, against the Brilliant Fusion, as opposed to the Scorpio right at the start. My reasoning for this is, yes, Predaplant Scorpio uses up the normal summon. However, if Brilliant Fusion stays at 3, Brilliant Fusion is a once per turn activation. So even if they can't, so for all you know, they could have one in their hand already, and they're just doing that to thin their deck before they do their search, just to try and bait your Ash Blossom out. So if you use it straight away, if they've got another one in hand, they're just going to go straight off into doing what they want. Yes, they won't get the Scorpio. No, wait, the Cobra. Sorry, getting my words mixed up here. So yeah, if they go Predaplant. So if they do Scorpio, effect, ditch a monster to special summon Cobra, and you go Ash Blossom, no, and they've still got Brilliant Fusion in hand, they're still... Yes, they won't be able to go into the Skulldeep, but that's still a potential way that they're going to get 3 monsters on board if they're using Trick Clown, so they can just easily make Deco Talker or something as well. So yeah, I find the best time to use it in that situation is going to be against the Brilliant Fusion. And also in that situation, you could also go into, well, the next card I'm going to talk about, Maxi. Maxi against the Predaplant engine is pretty good. good as well, particularly in that situation I explained, but probably still not completely worth it, because in that situation, because as I explained, when Scolded is summoned, if you use 4 different names, you get to draw 4 cards, then get rid of 3. If you max C against the Scorpio, yes, you're going into that combo, you're going to draw 4 cards, but so is your opponent, so they're probably just going to play through it. And there was another point I wanted to get to about in terms of Ash Blossom and that combo as well. If I can just remember what it was. I'll get back to that if I remember it. So talking more about Max C for a bit. Probably most people know that the best time to use Max C is if your opponent is right before your opponent's about to do like a special summon effect. So for example, if they activate, say, to give an example of something that lets you special summon easily, Back to the Front, Chain Max C, you're at least going to draw 1 card, so that's something. Another really good time to use it in terms of setting up in a game state, if your opponent goes first turn Gofu and you've got Max C, definitely I'd recommend chaining the Max C to the Gofu, because you'll get 1 draw off the summon of 2 tokens. Generally the play with, most people know the Gofu play of going into, using the 2 tokens to go into Proxy Dragon, then use Proxy Dragon and Gofu to go into Decode Talker. By putting them under Max C, then you'll possibly make your opponent rethink about if they want to do that. So, because if you Max C against it, you're going to draw 1 from the tokens, 1 from the Proxy Dragon, 1 from Decode. You're going to go +2, but they're going to get a Link Monster on the board, which pretty fair advantage for you, pretty easily. And guys, I'm just really sorry that I'm taking a while to think. I was thinking this out a bit, but I'm just kind of going in and out through the motions. But other good times to use Max C, like, because of course, sometimes when you do Max C, you want to try and get optimum card drawing advantage. Though simultaneously, you might also want to use Max C just as a disruption, just try and stop your opponent from what they're doing. So to give an example using like my deck of Pendulum Magicians, a good time to probably the best time to Max C would be against them activating their second scale, and then just go Max C, and then you might just stop them from doing a massive overextension. You've essentially stopped a magician player from massively overextending on their Pendulum Summon, because generally, since your Pendulum Summon cancels 1, you're only going to get 1 draw off Max C, but for some cards in the Magician matchup, like Harmonizing, who gets its effect off, who can special summon 1 from the deck off being Pendulum Summon from the hand, by doing it before their Pendulum Summon, they might making them rethink, do I want to make Harmonizing Magician and then summon another thing from my deck under Max C? I'm just going to give my opponent a lot of extra advantage. So you're making them rethink, which is pretty useful. So essentially, probably the best times to use Max C are against a situation where you know you're going to draw, like through an effect, like if your opponent's using an effect, like Brilliant Fusion, Predaplant, blah blah, as I explained. Or just a good time where you think, okay, they might be about to massively overextend and hit me, I'm going to Max C here, and just try and stop them. Those are probably the best times. Probably an advice I would definitely give for Max C, don't ever just Max C blindly at any point, because they're just going to find a way to easily play around that and change up the way they're going to play. You want to try and use your Max C to disrupt your opponent in the best possible way, so always think carefully when you're going to Max C. In a matchup I can recall in a match I had against, you've probably seen him, Dark Patrician 84. I remember in one of my matches against him, I did a Wavering Eyes, popped my scales to search for Astrograph Sorcerer, activated Chainlink's 1 and 2 effects of my Pendulum monsters. At that point, Richie decided just to blind Max C. Then I chained the effect, and then since it's still from when a card was destroyed, I just chained Astrograph Sorcerer there, special summoned him, got an additional search, and since Max C hadn't resolved, Richie didn't draw anything extra. And from that point, I had a 2500 monster on the board. I didn't really have to Pendulum Summon, so I didn't, so essentially I rendered the Max C pointless. And then finally the last hand trap I want to talk about is just Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre's got so much amazing potential in the current meta gameplay, because it stops things like continuous... Because Ghost Ogre can stop an active card by destroying it, so really useful against cards that need to be face up to resolve, so any continuous spells or traps, pendulum matchups. So easily the best time to use Ghost Ogre is a situation when your opponent's activating something that needs to be face up to resolve. However, in some cases like that, say a Magician matchup, you do have to think carefully about it. Guys, I'm going to be using Magicians as an easy... I'm going to be using Magicians a lot for examples of when to use your hand traps, just on terms that it's the deck I'm most familiar with, so I know how to play it, I know how to beat it, I know the best time to do these things. So, in most Pendulum matchups, if you use it against a Pendulum effect, you're going to destroy it, send it to the extra deck, and then it won't get its effect to resolve. However, in the current Magician matchup, since 3 of the new Magicians get effects off when they're destroyed, it's a bit risky trying to Ghost Ogre against the Pendulum effects now. So, if your opponent's using their Pendulum effect to do something and you want to Ghost Ogre against it, I'd probably hold off because you're going to destroy them and they're going to get an effect off, which is probably what they wanted to do in the first place. So in a Magician matchup, probably the best times to use Ghost Ogre would be against the Pendulum Graphs. Definitely use it against the Trap card, since that's a massively disruptive way for them to get advantage over you. The spell is another good one to hit it against, just so they stop massively searching, but mid to late game, probably use it more on the Trap. Early game, get rid of their star Pendulum Graph straight away. Don't let them have nice advantage. And in terms of monsters in the Magician matchup, that's again a bit iffy, because of course Pendulums just go to the extra deck, which not great. So probably in the setup, and also keep in mind, if you were to do a Ghost Ogre against a Pendulum monster activating its monster effect and you destroy it, they're still going to get the effect through, and then that also gives them a chance to activate the effect of Astrograph Sorcerer to special summon itself and just get back another copy of the card you just destroyed. So in terms of monsters to use Ghost Ogre on, I'd probably say save it for if they're going into an extra deck monster such as Time Star, Supreme Green Dragon, Clearwing. Yeah, that's probably the 2 main ones that you could use it against that they play. So yeah, that pretty much covers it for that. And then just another thing I wanted to talk to you guys about in terms of hand traps is that something I've noticed sometimes when I'm in games, if I've got multiple hand traps in my hand and you're ever in the position, I'm not sure how many of you guys have ever been in that position where you've opened your hand and you're like, okay, I've got a nice little mix of Maxx C, Ash Blossom, and I've got Ghost. Okay, I've got Maxx C, and I've got Ash Blossom. Okay. Oh, my opponent's doing something here. Oh, which one do I want to use? That one's a bit... Sometimes it's a bit iffy in those situations of if you open multiple hand traps when your opponent's doing something. So, in my situation... So, to give an example using some basic engines, like the Predaplant engine, if your opponent goes Scorpio from the engine, like, and you're in the position, and if you're in a mix of those 3, probably the best one to use against the Predaplant engine when they're setting up, I'd probably recommend going with Maxx C over Ash Blossom. Because, yes, you want to stop them from getting a mass field advantage, but keep in mind, Predaplant Darling Cobra is only once per duel, so just, if they get that over with, you know they've got it in they've got their fusion in their hand. If it's Brilliant Fusion, which will send from the deck, and you've got an Ash Blossom, you can just send the Ash Blossom then, which is pretty useful. Though, I found also in a recent matchup, I'm not sure if you guys saw it against my friend Kieran, he went first turn Lone Fire. In that position, I was in the position that I had Ash Blossom and I also had Maxx C. I was thinking, do I want to use Ash Blossom and stop the summon, or do I want to get Maxi and get some draws, since I know probably he's going to go into the Predaplant, so that would be a Predaplant draw of 1, 2 into... Definitely probably 2 draws off that, so I'd at least be going +1. But I was thinking, but then I also thought, you know what, I also know Kieran's deck. He doesn't play back row, so I'm just thinking, I'm just going to Ash Blossom against his Lone Fire, and then he basically just said, yeah, that's the end of my turn. So that's probably my So that's probably a recommendation for if you're in the situation of when to use Ash Blossom or Maxi against the Predaplant engine. If they're doing it just as the Predaplant, probably go. If they're doing it straight up with the Predaplant, I'd say start with the Maxi and then save the Ash Blossom for the Brilliant Fusion. If they're doing it as the Lone Fire, then Lone Fire, I'd probably say go with the Ash Blossom first, because Lone Fire, they've now committed to their normal summon. With the Lone Fire, it tributes its cost, they've committed to their normal summon, so Ash Blossom, that stops them from at least summoning again. Unless they have Gofu as well, though. If they went Gofu first, you'd probably Maxi. And then if they do go Gofu, just Maxi, and then you're like, okay, they're a bit stuck. And another thing I wanted to talk about, just a bit in terms of disruption as well, like, one of the things I went through when editing my deck was the decision of, because guys have seen in my build of Magicians, I like to main deck Cosmic Cyclone. Recently I put it into the side deck because I wasn't too sure about it. And some of my friends recommended, instead of Cyclones, I just main deck Ghost Ogre. So yeah, I was in a difficult position of thinking Ghost Ogre or Cyclone for protection of magicians, and also using it competitively against other magicians. In those situations, you have to be really careful. Like, generally, in a matchup where your opponent's got, like, a magician matchup, and you're like, do I want to use Cosmic Cyclone or do I want to use Ghost Ogre? My advice in that is Cosmic Cyclone the Pendulum Scale and prevent it from being returned to the extra deck, and then if they've got a Pendulum Graph on board as well that they can just chain to it, chain the Ghost Ogre and get rid of the Pendulum Graph. And I think that's about all I've got for the moment in terms of best times to use hand traps. I hope this was helpful to some of you guys. Leave the comments and anything else that you want me to talk about. Like, comment, and subscribe as always. And I'll be back with you guys pretty soon with some more content. Alright, thanks, bye.